Hello and welcome to the Classroom Connection, the show that takes you inside Marion County Public Schools. I'm your host, Kevin Christian, and coming up on today's show, we take you on a field trip with students to local medical offices so they can study careers in medicine. We determine a winner to the annual Battle of the Belts competition, and we're not talking about martial arts. And we meet a talented young lady who's making quite a name for herself on the softball field with just one hand. Up first, though, 8th Street Elementary turns 100 this year, and plans are already underway for a massive celebration. But the school received an early present in the form of a personal visit from Florida's First Lady. Here's Chadwick Pierce with the story.
Boys and girls, I'd like to introduce the First Lady of Florida, Mrs. Scott. Let's give her a round of applause.
It's been 9 years since the First Lady of Florida has visited Marion County. And a few months ago, the current First Lady, Ann Scott, made a well-anticipated visit to 8th Street Elementary. And arranging her visit actually happened through word of mouth.
I believe it started at the Commissioner for Education's Principal Summit. I was having a conversation with Commissioner Stewart about the upcoming centennial celebration at the 8th Street Elementary School facility, and discussing how we could get the governor an invitation to such an event. And I believe she may have mentioned that affair while meeting with the governor, and information was passed on to First Lady Scott, who was traveling through the state of Florida and took the opportunity to visit Ocala and 8th Street Elementary.
Scott is currently on a statewide tour promoting literacy and writing to students. She has been doing these types of visits since her husband became governor, and everyone can tell how much she truly enjoys it.
It was very clear that she loved reading, and she holds literacy as a priority.
You make me work harder than any of your other crayons all year long. I wear myself out coloring fire engines, apples, strawberries, and everything else that's red. I even work on holidays.
And the way she communicated with the children, the way she shared stories about her past and her reading, and the way she shared about her life in Tallahassee, you can tell she really loves children and she really wants to advance literacy within our student population.
An avid reader herself, Scott believes that great readers become great learners, and early learning leads to academic success.
I loved reading as a kid. I spent a lot of time at our public libraries. I know the media specialists will appreciate that, and the librarians. But it was important to me, and it was something that I shared with both of our daughters, and now they too are sharing their passion for reading with our 3 young grandsons. Our daughter Allison started reading to our oldest grandson now when he was just 10 weeks old, and now at age 2, he has favorite books of his own, and really it's very important to get the families reading to our children early. It really helps them be successful in school and in life.
A visit of this stature leaves an impact on students that we cannot see yet. Well, maybe a little.
It's going to inspire me to be a good student, and I'm pretty sure she was a good student to get into that spot of being the governor's wife, and it would inspire me to do the same.
Scott is still on her mission to advocate reading, but her message is simple.
Keep reading.
Reading is just one subject tested on the annual FCAT, and scores from that test help form part of a teacher's evaluation thanks to what's called a VAM score, which stands for Value Added Model. It's a brand new term, and the person who knows the most about VAM in our district is Dr. Marilyn Underwood, and she joins us now. Marilyn, I guess my first question is going to be, why are we even talking about VAM scores?
Well, Kevin, it is very timely because the Florida Department of Education recently released teacher VAM data.
Why are they doing that?
Well, that is in response to a court decision which stated that the VAM data was in fact public record.
Okay. VAM, what is VAM?
Value added model. You are correct in your definition. It is the number associated with a teacher that is intended to describe the teacher's impact on the student learning in that classroom.
I'm sorry, it sounds pretty complicated.
It is. If I could show you the formula, we would need a very long scroll of paper that would stretch across the studio. It is a very long, statistical, complicated formula.
And it's new this year.
It is not new this year. We had VAM last year, and in fact, we had VAM the year before.
Okay.
But this year is the first year that the data has been made public to media based on that court decision out of Duval County.
What can we tell from a VAM score?
In its raw form, which is what was released, absolutely nothing. They range from, a VAM score may be negative, it may be positive, but in its form that you would see if you had that data in front of you, you wouldn't be able to make any determination on my effectiveness, your effectiveness, or the effectiveness of any of our teachers.
Pardon the pun. So what's the value in this for moms and dads at home or people in our community? Why should they be concerned about VAM scores?
Well,
or should they be?
Well, I guess there's two answers to that, Kevin. If you're asking me about the data that was just released and whether that is data that parents or community members should be concerned about, I would say no, because as I said, it's meaningless in its current form. We do use data, the VAM data, which is applied into the Marion County evaluation system, that does determine a teacher's effectiveness for their students, and that is reported in their evaluation.
So that's how we effectively use VAM.
Yes.
Within the determination of how effective those teachers are.
Yes.
So it's a rating.
It is
part of the rating.
It converts to a rating. Yes, it's part of their rating.
I've been asked this question: how should we not use these scores? What should we not do?
Well, above all, first and foremost, and I cannot say it enough and I cannot stress it enough, we cannot use these scores to make any kind of comparison, to compare me against you, to determine that you are more effective than I am. We cannot use these scores to rate or rank teachers.
Even though that's exactly what the media have done.
Well, it is truly an erroneous way to use this data.
Right.
And in fact, I would say it's egregious because it puts out a listing of people compared against one another, and VAM data is not intended to do that.
It's like taking everybody born on the same day, putting all their names into a hat, and presuming that despite their differences of hair color, eye color, skin color, whether they wear eyeglasses or hearing aids or whatever the case may be, that all of those children are exactly the same and will respond and learn in exactly the same manner.
That's exactly right, Kevin, because I think one of the things we neglected to say, the way that VAM data is created is based on a prediction that the formula makes for each student individually. So in a class of 30 students, each student has an individual prediction based on the formula and the variables applied for that particular student. So that makes it even more ludicrous to try to compare me against you. You don't have the same students that I have. Your students have different variables, totally different predictions. So because it is so individualized, it comes from an individual formula for the students. You cannot compare individuals or schools or districts.
Now, we've talked about students a lot and student information. What kind of student information should we be concerned with the release of VAM scores? I mean,
there is no student information included in the release.
Okay.
What is included is purely what is considered to be public record a year afterwards. The evaluation data is released, and that data is merely teacher data. It is the teacher's name, the number of years of teaching, it's the degree the teacher holds, and again, that raw number, which is virtually meaningless.
What's the value to a teacher of that VAM score? Is there a value to you as a holder of a teaching certificate in the state of Florida? I realize you're not in the classroom right now, but if you were, what value would that VAM score be to you? How could you benefit from that VAM score?
From the score that's being released? I would find it very difficult to benefit from the number being released. And I keep saying that, and it sounds like I'm being evasive, or I'm negating something that is really quite valuable. The number bears absolutely no relationship to any number we are familiar with. It isn't a percentile. It isn't a stay-nine. It's not a percentage of 0 to 100. It isn't a proficiency versus non-proficiency. It is none of those things. It's just a raw number.
Is it fair to say that it is a raw number used exclusively for that teacher to determine that teacher's effectiveness?
Yes, it is.
Period. Nothing else.
That is accurate. But to make sense of it,
right,
you have to then apply it to the rubric with the numbers associated, right, for how we apply it for teachers.
It sounds incredibly complicated. I know at one point you and I worked on several sheets to share with our district and with the community about VAM scores. It's an 11-page formula that's incredibly complicated, and I believe VAM is going to be around for a while. What's the future of VAM?
Well, I'm hopeful that the future of VAM will be much clearer, that there will be some real explanation forthcoming, right, from the state, from the creators of the VAM model, that will help everyone to understand the variables that are applied for each student, and how that formula calculates the difference between I made my prediction as a student or I didn't. I believe that VAM is valuable in that it helps me as a teacher to see what impact I was able to have, right, on a student for that year. Is that all of my value? Absolutely not. Yeah. Absolutely not.
Just like a student's FCAT score is not the only indicator of their learning.
No,
so
and that is important too, because that VAM model is based on that same FCAT score, right, which is one day in time.
Yeah. Well, it is incredibly complicated, and we cannot underscore it enough. When you hear VAM scores or you see VAM scores, do not draw conclusions, because any conclusion anyone would make other than the effectiveness of that specific teacher in that specific teacher's evaluation would be erroneous.
Yes,
period.
It would. Yes.
No exception. All right. Marilyn, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.
It's a complicated issue, but
yes,
we appreciate your insight.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Well, Pathways to Prosperity. It's a great slogan, and it's the title of an impressive program helping students make better choices for their careers. We've shared several field trips with you in previous shows, so this month we take you along as students learn more about the medical world by visiting local medical offices. Here's Joel Hartley with that story.
My goal is to be an RN, and I've become very interested in the medical field, so I want to get as much information as I can to pursue that goal.
In that case, Christina Colon is in the right program. Pathways to Prosperity has taken students interested in animals to an equine hospital, students interested in the hospitality industry to Mojo's, and now students like her to the Ocala Family Medical Center, all to get an up-close look at the careers they want to pursue.
Some of the students already had an interest in radiology, so for those particular students, they got one-on-one FaceTime with the director of imaging and all the other people that work in the imaging department. So they were able to ask questions about the different tests, and they knew the basic information or what kind of schooling. That was a big thing, I think, because requirements are changing. So for the students that wanted to do MRI CT, now that the requirements are changing, they were able to find that out, which is something that they didn't know. So it gives them another idea of what to expect again when they start educating themselves in that field.
I learned about the financial pay, the responsibilities that they do, the difference between an LPN, BSN, and RN, and they just showed me the CAT scans, MRIs, and what can they see in the MRIs and what they can't.
Maybe the biggest goal of the Pathways to Prosperity program is exposing both the good and bad of potential careers and either encouraging students to pursue them or discouraging them so they can find something else before investing lots of time and education.
I think the students got a full 360, with as much as we offer. They got a little bit of background, they got to talk to some of the providers, they got to talk to the specialists in their field that without having a program like this, they might not have had that opportunity, and then they decide they go into the field, they go into that career and get that education in that specialty and realize it's really not what I thought it was. So it gives them a little precursor to a better understanding of what exactly it is and all the different careers.
It most definitely encouraged me. I had more insight on different types of positions in the field. So my minds have opened more to more possibilities that I might want to do.
And there are plenty of possibilities.
There's a lot that's behind the scenes that you don't know, and you don't know unless you're told or unless you're taught. So we open up the facilities because we want the youth to know that it's not just doctors and medical assistants. There's radiology, there's phlebotomy, there's all kinds of specialties that you can take up and partake in to be a part of the medical field. We wanted to give them an option. Some of them say they want to go into law, some law enforcement, healthcare, but just to give them a general idea of the different careers that are offered with healthcare.
We wrap up this series next month as students head to mock job interviews to prepare for the real world. Well, one student who's part of that program wants to be a pastry chef in the near future. For now, though, she's a player on the Dunnellon High softball team who approaches the game from a very unique perspective. Once again, here's Joel Hartley.
Softball players are classified by position and handedness, and Dunnellon High's Vanesa Hernandez is no different. The first baseman and pitcher bats left-handed and fields and throws with her right hand. You heard me right. She fields and throws with the same hand, because it's the only one she has.
I've never found it challenging because I've been doing it since I was so young, because I've adjusted myself. I've had no one teach me. Just like I learned myself to tie my shoes, no one taught me, I taught myself. So it was basically, I was the teacher and the student.
She's both a Golden Apple teacher and an A+ student. You have to watch in slow motion to really appreciate how fluidly she transitions from catching to throwing, cradling the glove against her chest with her left arm while removing her right hand, grabbing the ball, and firing away. Hitting is a different story.
Sometimes I find it challenging because when I go to bat, all the coaches ever tell players is rely on your top hand, rely on your top hand. My top hand is no hand, so I rely on my right arm the whole time, and sometimes it's challenging, but I kind of block out the judgment and try to function with my own style.
Her own style has made quite a name for herself. Well, maybe not exactly a name.
Everywhere I go to play, everybody already knows the girl with one hand. They don't know my name, they just know the girl with one hand, and that doesn't bother me because it's a description.
What does bother her is being known as a good one-handed player. She wants to be known as a good player who just happens to be one-handed.
I don't really like when people just look at me because, oh, she has one hand, she's a good athlete. Look at me because I am a good athlete and I'm doing well at the sport, not just for a girl with one hand, I do good. I want to be good compared to everybody else with two hands.
With her unique condition, it's easy to make the connection between her and her idol, former Major Leaguer Jim Abbott.
I looked at him and I was like, wow, that he's the same thing as me. Like, he's a pitcher, he has one hand, he was my idol. Most people look at like Jenny Finch, pitcher. I look at John Abbott, one hand.
Abbott is her idol, but not her inspiration. Hernandez didn't even know about him until she had already been playing for a couple of years. That is, after she convinced her mom she could do it.
She tried to hold me back a little bit because she was scared. She was like, no, you're not going to play. And I begged and I begged and I pushed, and she let me play.
When Hernandez isn't in the game, she makes her presence felt and her voice heard from the dugout.
Nice, it doesn't really matter if I'm not playing, it's just being a part of the team that makes me happy. So if I'm screaming my head off, like, I contributed because I'm pumping up the girls on the field.
No matter what, if Vanessa's on the bench, if she's in the field, if she's just batting, honestly, she's there. She's such a presence for us. She is always talking in the dugout. She's always throwing, always wanting to do extra. I feel privileged to be able to coach somebody like that has such, inner strength to be able to come out and do what she does and not care what people say. And that's just, I'm proud to have her on my team. I'm proud to say she's one of mine.
Truly an inspiring story. both on and off the field. Congratulations, Vanessa, and we wish you sweet success on that pastry chef career. Well, this month marks the start of prom season, a time for celebration and fun for most high school students. But it can also be a deadly time thanks to bad decisions when students get behind the wheel. There is one contest, though, that puts students to the test. It's called Battle of the Belts, and it's designed to strap students into buckling up every time. Once again, here's Chadwick Pierce.
One of the very first things you are taught to do when learning how to drive is buckling your seatbelt. Continuing that habit pays off safety-wise for all drivers, and now it has paid off for Forest High School because they just won the Battle of the Belts competition.
The Battle of the Belts, well, of course, it's gone on for several years in Marion County schools. Mr. Markham, our safety coordinator, started that program, and basically it's just a campaign to remind students of how important it is to buckle their seatbelt. At Forest, we've done over the past several years several campaigns, 21 Days to a Habit, morning announcements, reminding them in the parking lot about how important it is to buckle up. The campaign this year, we were lucky enough to win it. It all comes back to the students. When the students know that you're wanting them to do something, they will do the right thing.
The attorneys that sponsor this battle have a vested interest in it, not for business reasons, but personal ones.
I'm a father of four daughters, and one still in college and one here in high school at Forest High School. And we stress to them the importance of first wearing their seatbelts and that it should be automatic. When they get into the motor vehicle, before the ignition goes on, they should put their seatbelts on. It's got to be the first thing they do when they get in. And we stress how dangerous it is to be in a motor vehicle without having a seatbelt on. The second thing we stressed is in today's world, and adults included, we are guilty of texting and driving. And texting and driving is very, very dangerous. So we stress to the students that put your phone away while you're driving.
This competition is anonymous, and no one, not even the faculty, know when the counting is taking place in the parking lot.
It's generally in the springtime of the year, but they will come out and they will count. They will count the number of students driving from our parking lot with their seatbelt buckled. And that gives them a baseline, and they do that at all the high schools. This year, as I understand it, there was 3 high schools that we all had virtually the same percentage of students that were already buckled up. So they had to break that tie. They came out at another time, another anonymous check day, and we were fortunate enough to have improved, and that may have to do with the fact that we ran to the parking lot and reminded them one more time, but nevertheless, we did end up winning that one.
Winning this battle comes with a plaque and a nice little check.
Well, we were pretty excited to receive the $500 prize, and I went in and Mr. Carson and I talked about it, and the point is we won this, the students won this, so we want it to go back to them. We're talking about potentially purchasing some signage, just anything that reminds the students to buckle up. Wildcats buckle up, so that we can put those signs at every exit of this place, and hopefully with the parents' support and the kids see that, maybe we can get even more people to buckle up.
This is the first time in recent years that there has been a tie for first place, and in this case, that's a good thing. Each month here on the Classroom Connection, we introduce you to someone in our school district who loves their job. This month's subject stands out at MTI, or Marion Technical Institute, because he's dedicated to one thing above all else: students. We'd like you to meet Michael Fritch.
My name is Michael Fritch. I started with Marion County Public Schools about 20 years ago in 1993 as a culinary arts teacher at Lake Weir High School. I taught there for 10 years and then decided that I'd take my education and further myself a little bit by going down to the Villages Charter Schools, where I was an assistant principal for 4 years. Decided it was time to come back to Marion County, so I came back to Marion County here at Marion Technical Institute about 7 years ago and started as the vocational administrator with Mr. Mark Vianello. And then Mr. Vianello asked if I'd like to be the curriculum coordinator, and so I became curriculum coordinator about 4 years ago, and I've been doing that position ever since. One of the interesting things about being here at MTI is having the ability to watch how the school has grown over the past 8 years, from its infancy when Mr. Vianella was here and me coming on board in its third year to where we're at now 8 years later, and the changes that have taken place through our business partners, the growth we've had, the students that come from all over Marion County Public Schools. Because we are a choice school, we have no buses. Our students they have to get up every morning and make a choice to come to our school. And that's exactly what they do. And what makes it really fun to get up every day and come to work is when I get up and know that every one of those students made a decision that they were going to get in a car, or their parents were going to get in a car and drive them to our school every day. Some as far away as Dunnellon, some as far away as North Marion. We have students from Lake Weir, we have students from Westport. Every high school in Marion County is represented here at MTI with our 11th and 12th grade students. And it's really interesting, or exciting I should say, to get up every morning and know that I'm dealing with students that are coming here for a reason. They're not just coming here because the yellow bus is picking them up at their driveway. They're coming here because they want to get that certification. They want to go the extra mile. They want more than just a high school diploma. I'd have to say I absolutely love being here because of the students. And that is my passion. I'm not a data cruncher. I'm not the visionary. I have ideas, but I really enjoy communicating with the students every day. And face-to-face conversations with the students, finding out what it is that turns them on, how do we keep them motivated to become successful individuals later in life.
Mr. Fritch, we appreciate your dedication and all the work you do. Thank you so much. And we also appreciate the work our superintendent does all over Marion County. Here's Mr. George Tommen with this month's Superintendent Spotlight.
I come to you today from the campus of Marion Technical Institute, or as we like to say, MTI. MTI offers special industry certification opportunities for juniors and seniors in our school system, as well as offering a regular standard high school diploma. MTI is located at the Old Forest High School, which is on Fort King Street, just east of downtown Ocala. This place has a very special meaning to me because I attended Forest High School as a student and later had the opportunity of serving as principal of Forest High School for 9 years. And of course, our new Forest High School, as you all know, is located on Merricamp Road. One of the reasons I'm here today is that very recently our school board decided to recognize a very special educator from our community's past. Robert Mack Dunwoody was superintendent of schools during the very challenging days of desegregation, or integration as we like to call it, in the late 1960s. Mr. Dunwoody ushered in the integration of our school system in that very challenging time, and it is very appropriate that recently our school board named this facility the Robert Mack Dunwoody Educational Complex. We're very proud of what Mr. Dunwoody did here as superintendent. He later served as a staff development coordinator, and we believe that naming this complex in his honor will be a great recognition of this great educator and what he contributed to our school system. I'm also here today to remind you that this is the testing season. April and the month of May are big testing seasons throughout the state of Florida, and Marion County is no exception. Students in grades 3 through 11 are taking what we call our FCAT test, and they will be taking that test for a 2-week period of time, and many other students will be taking what we call end of course exams. We'd like to wish all of our students, 42,000 students, good luck as they take these tests during this testing season, and congratulate and thank the many teachers that we have who've been hard working to prepare our students for this testing season.
Thanks, Mr. Tommen, and thank you for joining us today. You can also watch Classroom Connection on our very own YouTube channel. Simply go to YouTube and type in MCPS Media without a space, and that will bring up our channel. And you can watch each show in its entirety. Again, that's MCPS Media without a space on YouTube.com. We also feature school board meetings and other locally produced programming on that same YouTube channel. And with that, folks, we wrap up today's show. Remember, be there for your child every day.